that proverb that you just saw on the screen, it's referring to a fool's anger. That they're just you know it right away because they just express, right? I mean, right away as soon as they can. But it says that's a fool, right? That's how a fool behaves. But it's not just with anger, by the way. It's with pretty much anything. It's like a person that this proverb is referring to is a person who is reactive. They tend to act emotionally. In the New Testament, it talks about things like outbursts of anger being a deed of the flesh or something that's not very spiritually. It's actually kind of sinful. It's just a funny thing, but there's a tendency for that person to be very reactive in life. I find film and drama very interesting. Always have. I really like the study of it. It's very interesting to me. And I spent some time studying technique. We've probably all heard of, in the acting profession, you've probably heard of method acting. But there's another variant of that called the Meisner technique, which I found really interesting to study. A lot of actors use it, and it helps them be actually really, really good actors. I've been impressed by some of the performances of people that follow this technique. But the technique is about how the actor can, in order to do a good performance, they need to draw on emotional experiences they've had and basically transplant them into the scenario they're trying to act. But the whole key is the drawing on the emotional experiences and pulling those emotions to the surface so that you can use them to demonstrate the scenario you're in. The emotions. A lot of acting today is really centered around the emotions, and a lot of story writing, screenwriting, is centered around displaying the emotional effects of a scenario. And so you watch a lot of TV, it's very volatile. There's every scenario, somebody's having a hugely emotional reaction to the situation they're in. And I get it, because it makes for more interesting drama, right? I mean, that's the whole point. That's why we use the word drama to refer to people who seem to be maybe more heightened in their emotions. Oh, that's a drama queen, or that's and in the dramatic world, I get that. We want to explore and we want to see how people deal with things emotionally, because we're emotional beings, and we find it interesting, and we're always, in our lives, we're always trying to figure out how to handle our emotions in the scenarios we're in real life. We're always trying to figure out how to manage the emotions I'm feeling in this or that scenario. I think that it makes sense in drama, and I can understand it, but I think there's an unfortunate side effect to the fact that all of our stories we now tell in our day and age, all of the stories are always told through an emotional lens. And so we've unfortunately, we have through that taught people, you know how stories teach lessons? Well, we've taught people as they grow up in our day that everything should be dealt with from an emotional standpoint, that we should be reactive. We've taught people that if you're in a scenario and things go a certain way, then you should be angry, you should be scared, you should be jealous, you should be whatever. And we teach them that that's the way to deal with things. And I don't blame people who have acted this way. Who wants a part where you're what actor would want to have the role that is just simply, logically explaining the situation? Or what story is interesting if, when the boyfriend is accused of cheating on the girl, she comes to him very logically and says, somebody told me that you were at such and such a person's place, and he responds, well, no, I wasn't, and I was just down at the store, and here, and they have a very logical conversation like real people should have. It doesn't make for good drama. It doesn't make for a good story. We find that boring. So I get it, but unfortunately, we kind of have taught people that the way we live normally is to be highly volatile and highly emotional. But the scriptures tell us that's the way a fool lives, right? This emotional volatility isn't a smart place it's not a good place to live. We will not live healthy lives. You will actually set fire to your life if you live that way. You will make every situation worse if you live that way. And the reason is our emotions are driving forces in our life. When we feel something, it causes us to act. But if we And so if we feel without the thinking, we will act without the thinking. If we don't take time to quiet our emotions and to be prudent, then we will not act well. We will act reflexively, volatilely. This old word prudence is a word that means to be thoughtful about the future. Right? Like the fool reacts angrily, but the prudent person, the person who stops and thinks about the future, thinks about what I should do, a prudent person, that's the one who's going to have a better outcome in their life. Their life is going to be better put together. They're going to have more success. They're going to have better relationships. Yeah, it's not very, very exciting drama, but that's kind of the point. A person who reacts more with prudence is going to be able to save a bad situation. They're going to be able to prevent offense more often, and they're going to be able to make good decisions more often instead of being driven by a volatile emotional state. Emotionality is the order of our day, and it's really, really dangerous. Now, I'm not saying we need to not be emotional. And that's a mistake sometimes people make. They think that in order to be prudent, I need to not have emotions. And well, that's not the case. You can't do that. It's not possible for a human being to not have emotions. We are emotional creatures. It's what drives us forward. But the key is, as we mature and as our children grow up, we want to teach them not to script their lives the way that the movies and the television shows script those stories. That's not normal. That's actually dramatic. What's normal is that and what should be normal for an adult is that you are not led and ruled by your emotions, but through prudence, you rule them. Your emotions are led by you, by what you have thought and decided and chosen. And so then you still have emotions, but that they obey you. You don't obey them. And when we realize this, that's what maturity is. And when we realize that, and the more we grow in this idea that I can regulate and I can control and I can master my emotions, then it makes sense of a lot of the scriptures in the Bible that say things like, husbands, love your wives, right? A command. Choose to love your wives. But if we live the way the world is teaching us, then, well, it just kind of happens to you. You either fall in love or you fall out of love, or whatever happens to you. It's all, a force of gravity, all of its own. Well, no, it's not. You can be the master through prudence. You can be the master of your emotions. They don't need to be your master. You can master them. And it's a much better way to live. And so many things in your life will be better if you master prudence rather than letting your emotions and the Hollywood way of life master you. Anyway, that's something to think about.